training program with Open edX, where we'll talk shop with thought leaders Nate, Ani, and Mark Hober. But before jumping in, let's run through some quick webinar housekeeping. Thanks, Nate. First of all, our phone lines are muted, but we really do want to hear from you to make this as interactive as possible. We love questions, so please use the Q&A widget at any point to ask either myself, Nate, and Mark anything that's on your mind. We'll try to address comments and questions throughout the presentation or during the Q&A at the very end. We'll also be sprinkling some interactive polls throughout the discussion, so stay on the lookout for those. And finally, this session will be recorded and shared following the webinar, we promise. With that out of the way, let's run through today's agenda. So we're going to kick things off with brief introductions and then let our two speakers hash out the following hot topics: emerging trends in the digital and online training landscape, Open edX and its advantages for delivering an online training program, best practices for building a scalable training program, and then we'll wrap things up with a Q&A. For those in the crowd that are new to AppSembler, I just wanted to share a quick bit about us. So it's our mission to streamline and simplify the delivery of online training so that you can focus on what truly matters, your learners. To do this, we've built an easy, affordable, and powerful SaaS platform that makes learning better for everyone. We've been around since 2011 and are trusted by a slew of educators and trainers worldwide, from high-growth B2B software companies like Cybereason to higher education institutions like ASU and Penn State University. And with that, let's kick off our introductions. So hello, I'm Amanda, Head of Product Marketing here at AppSembler. The other faces here with me are Nate, Ani, CEO and founder of AppSembler, and Mark Hober, Director of Training and Enablement at Cybereason, and former Head of Documentation at edX. Nate, would you please share a little bit more about yourself and then pass the baton over to Mark?
Sure, thanks Amanda. It's great to be here and great to see so many people on the call today. So my name is Nate Ani, I'm the CEO and founder of AppSembler. And my background is as a developer, been involved in the technology field for many, many years. And a few years ago, started AppSembler really with the mission to enable educators and trainers to deliver better online learning experiences. And I got involved pretty early on with the Open edX project. I worked at edX where I met Mark back in 2013. And since then, we've been delivering Open edX solutions to a whole range of different companies all around the world. Spoken at the annual Open edX conference, which is coming up just around the corner. And so I'm really excited to have Mark with us today to talk more about building scalable online training programs.
Hi, thanks, Nate. I'm Mark Hober. I'm the Director of Training and Enablement at Cybereason. I've been here at Cybereason for a little over a year, and I started last January, with the goal of building a new online training program that would really help the company scale. We're a high-growth company with an increasing number of customers distributed around the world, and we needed a training program that would keep up with that growth. As Nate mentioned, I used to work at edX back in 2013. I was the first documentation manager there and learned a lot about the platform and learning in today's world. And it's been really exciting to be on the other side of the fence, working with the tools I used to work on to build this program. So I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
Great, thanks so much, Nate and Mark. All right, so we're gonna get this poll party started and launch our first poll. So with this one, we just wanna learn a little bit more about you guys. So how are you currently conducting your training program? In person, online, a bit of a blend, both in person and online, or maybe something else? I'm gonna let this run for just a few more seconds to collect responses. And then we will look at results. All right, it looks like most of you have voted, so we're going to end the poll. It seems like a lot of you are doing a little bit of both in-person and online trading, which is really cool to see. Great. Awesome. Thanks so much for sharing that, guys. So moving on to our first topic, we're going to kick off discussions with emerging megatrends in the digital and training landscape. So Nate, this question's for you. With your finger on the pulse of so many emerging trends, I'm just curious, what has you really excited?
Yeah, thanks, Amanda. So I'd like to touch on three different things that we're seeing with the various customers that we're working with. The first is experiential learning. What do we mean by that? So a lot of traditional training has focused on video-based with multiple choice as kind of knowledge checks. And what we're seeing, especially with a lot of the tech companies that we work with, is a focus on learning by doing and actually putting the product in front of the customer and getting them to use the real product. So the idea is that you provide hands-on exercises, hands-on labs, and really more closely map the experience during the training, during the learning, with what the learner is likely to do in the workplace. So this manifests in a lot of different ways, labs, simulations, even AR, VR technology. We're starting to see interest in that. So that's the first one, is experiential learning. The second one is continuous learning. So, a lot of high growth tech companies have a product that's rapidly changing, it's evolving. The product today is not what it was a week or a month ago. And so there's a really a lot of emphasis on continuous learning, keeping not just employees trained on the latest product, but also keeping the customers and partners up to date on the latest product. So a platform that can provide very iterative, very adaptive, being able to change the content easily is really important. And the last one is micro-learning. So what we've seen on edX.org is, multi-week courses that are more closely mapped to the academic calendar. And with corporate learning, and especially, these high growth tech companies, it's really important to have more micro-based learning. So smaller courses that you can maybe complete in an hour. With the focus on labs and really learning by doing, as opposed to a lot of kind of theoretical, conceptual content. So those are the three: experiential learning, continuous learning, and micro-learning.
Cool. Thanks so much, Nate.
So I'd like to kick things off and turn the mic over to Mark, and love to hear from you, Mark. What are some new use cases or scenarios that you're seeing in your work at Cybereason around these three different trends?
Sure. Thanks, Nate. Our primary training audience are security analysts who use our product to protect their corporate environments. And what Nate was talking about just now fits exactly into their needs and our needs to train them. For example, actually what I've been working on for the last 6-7 weeks that we just got out there is a short class with an integrated lab system. And the lab provides each user with their own private network. In that network, our users are actually executing a malicious attack on computers in that network. And then we guide our users through an exercise of using our product to detect the attack and then to remediate the attack. This lets our users experience in real time how our tools work, how you can see in real time the attacks going on, how that looks in our product, and what to do about it. So a big goal we have this year is to build upon that, provide more micro training that can be short courses that go through much of the same pattern, but are geared towards specific attacks that our users might encounter on their real day jobs, that they can then exercise and take that experience that they're doing in a safe environment back to their jobs. So we're trying to build a library of what we call exactly micro training to do just that and to provide that hands-on experience.
And Mark, are you primarily training customers after they've already bought the product, or do you see advantages of providing this kind of training even before they bought the product, sort of pre-sales, as a way of understanding the value and how the product works?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think my first commitment and mission in my job is post-sales. It's for our customers, especially when they're in the onboarding process. I think that is, as a company and as a program that I'm managing, we're in the process of actually making that training available to prospects. We have a POC process where we provide our prospects with hands-on use of our product for a period of time, and increasingly those users are taking our training. So it's both.
Okay.
And that's actually been a very useful tool for our sales engineering team. They do a lot of hands-on help with our prospects, but they've also been able to point them to these experiences, both for their own education and to demonstrate how we as a company support our customers.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. So I think we're going to move on to the next poll. Over to you, Amanda.
Yep, so it looks like, yeah, we're ready to do poll number 2. So I'm going to go ahead and launch this one. So with this, we're just trying to take your temperature on how familiar you are with OpenEdX already. So maybe a little bit familiar, moderately, or not at all. Any flavor of this is totally fine. So I will just give you all a few more seconds to complete. Looks like we're almost there. All right, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up and share the results. Interesting, almost a complete split between very familiar and moderately, and then some of you who aren't at all, which is great because that's, you know, a meat of what we're going to be covering today. So moving on to the next section, OpenEdX and its advantages for delivering a scalable online training program. Nate, I'll let you kick us off here.
Thanks, Amanda. So Mark, what led you to choose OpenEdX for Cybereason?
Sure. So several things. I think first and foremost, the learner experience is excellent. I think the LMS part of OpenEdX, that our end users experience, is very intuitive, simple to use. We don't need to provide training on how to use our training. And it's been really well received. So that's our priority number one, making life easier for our customers. I'd also say that the course creation side, what I do and some of our team members do all day through Studio, is very easy. Now, because I worked on it from the early days, I know Studio pretty well, so that was easy for me. But it's also been a very easy tool for other new people within Cybereason to pick up and use, and many people throughout the company are doing that now. I would also cite a bias for open source tools like OpenEdX. I think the rate of innovation is faster. The flexibility it gives you is a big advantage. And finally, I would say cost. I think with some proprietary systems, there are licensing fees and what I refer to as a penalty for growth, and that's not an issue with OpenEdX. Finally, I think the speed of getting it up and running is very easy and quick, especially with a hosting provider such as AppSembler. That we had a class up and running on your Tahoe system within a day of signing off on the contract. It was technically very easy to get going.
That's great. And for those of you who don't know, Studio is the course authoring tool provided by OpenEdX. Just because I know the last poll showed that we had 20% of people who are not familiar with OpenEdX.
Sure. I would add one other thing I'm thinking of to that list that is really important is the variety of assessments. Certainly we have sort of the standard multiple choice type questions, but OpenEdX provides a lot of different problem types, tools. I think the drag and drop and visual tools are very well received by our users and something we want to leverage as much as we can.
Yeah, and you mentioned the advantages of being an open source software product, that it's very flexible. What a lot of people might not realize is that OpenEdX has an extensible framework which allows you to add your own courseware components. So if the out-of-the-box ones don't work for you, you can build your own, what's called an X block. It's think of it like a plugin. You can build a plugin, and then that can extend the courseware capabilities of the platform.
Yes.
All right. So how have you leveraged OpenEdX to build a scalable training program at Cybereason?
So we've, over the last year, we've developed courses primarily for our end users, security analysts, but also partners and employees. We've really used it as the platform for training for all our stakeholders. We've built courses that consist of video, discussions, assessments, and labs, with the labs being run in a separate environment, but closely connected to the LMS. We've also leveraged the data that we get out of OpenEdX on student performance and understanding what is working in the classes, what's not. In some limited situations, we've used that data or completing the assessments as a gate for further training or gate for partnership programs. The platform makes that fairly easy to do. We're not using a certification program quite yet, but that's something we intend to do starting really this quarter.
Mm-hmm.
So we've gotten about a dozen basic courses out there for our security analysts, administrators of our program, as well as partners, and also providing training on new releases. And I think we've had pretty good success with it. We've had over 100 customer accounts go through the training with, I think it's almost up to 700 unique users who've completed at least parts of the training program. And we're closing in on about 3,000 enrollments across all our courses.
And just for comparison, how does that impact compare to before you had an online learning platform, when you were just doing things sort of in person? Or
so we have a great customer success team that when clients are post-sales and they're onboarding, they do a lot of in-person or remote live training for our new customers. When Cybereason was very small and a limited number of customers, that worked, but it obviously doesn't scale, and we have more and more customers. So they've been able to point onboarding customers to the online resources that we're providing and the online training that lets the customer success team scale much more. It also lets them focus their in-person time, not on our basic product training, but on issues that are very specific to that client's environment. So I think it's really helped that team scale. It's helped us onboard more rapidly a large number of customers.
Great. So I think last question for this topic. For those folks who are on the call, listeners who are maybe considering building out an online learning program at their company, what are some things they should keep in mind? What are some challenges that you found in making this transition from maybe a more classroom-based or in-person based training to an online format?
Sure. I think one of the biggest challenges we have overall, you mentioned at the beginning, is that our product's changing very rapidly. I mean, we've have many new releases. There's constant evolution, especially in the security field. There's new attacks. There were many in the news last year that lead to different changes in our product, as well as how we train people. So keeping up with a fast evolving world is difficult. Oftentimes we provide training that is obsolete after not too long of a period. I think that's sort of independent of the platform that we use. On the plus side, using Studio makes it very easy to update our content, our training content, and keep up with those changes. But I think for a training program in general, especially in high tech, is that's always going to be the biggest challenge. Otherwise, I think that the platform has served our other challenge well, which is a growing list of customers in different time zones around the world. Scheduling training is a huge challenge when you have such a diverse audience, and we've been able to basically say to all our clients, we have these resources available to you anytime, any place. We're bringing it to you. You don't need to adjust to our schedule. You can access it as you need to. That's been a challenge that I think we've made a lot of progress on.
Yeah. And have you also found people taking advantage of the mobile responsive capabilities of the platform?
Yes, we can. The LMS itself is responsive. It can be used on a tablet, on a phone. We have users doing that. We're not using a custom app right now, but just through a browser on any device, it works well. There are some limitations with that, like with our labs, that would be very difficult to use. Actually running a text on your phone, through command line, but all our videos and assessments work very well on any device.
Great. All right. Well, I think we'll move on to the next poll. Amanda, over to you.
Thanks, Nate. So yeah, we're going to launch our final poll for today. So with your attendance here, what's your primary goal for your current training program? Are you trying to increase product adoption, train customers, partners, or employees, generate new leads and sales opportunities, deliver MOOC-style courses, or maybe something else? So we'll let this run for a few more seconds, collect your responses. Looks like we're just about there. So I'm going to go ahead and close the poll and then share the results. So it looks like most of you are, going to train customers, partners, and employees, but then it's pretty split evenly amongst the others: increase product adoption, generate leads. So very interesting. Thanks so much for sharing that, guys. So moving on to the last topic for today's discussion: best practices for building and implementing a scaling training program. Nate, I'll let you kick us off.
All right. So Mark, what, in your experience, are some best practices that you can share for building a scalable training program?
Sure. One of the things you mentioned earlier, Nate, was the micro training. And I think one thing we're emphasizing this year is we need more focused, shorter classes, not the long commitment that some classes have taken. The goal of, maybe this class would take an hour to work through all the content, the lab, and complete the assessments. That's one. I think we're getting that demand from our users, and that's where the industry is heading. Something else we emphasize is we want to provide training where people are actually doing things. We have a lot of video content and documentation, but when somebody's taking a course, we don't want them to spend a majority of their time actually just passively consuming that content. I mean, we have a rule we try to stick to, that at least 50%, if not more of the time, our users are doing things. Now, those things might include taking assessments, and we try to mix up how those assessments are presented, different problem types, different ways of doing it, or doing labs, or interacting with our product in some way. I think that's critical for the learning and critical for keeping people's attention. Something else that is really important in building this program is video quality. And I know we've talked about this, but there's definitely a tension between being fast and getting training and content to users quickly when it's needed, versus really high quality. And we always have to balance that, but the video quality really matters to our users. And I'm not saying we need a really fancy, highly produced videos, but they need to be very clear. The audio needs to be very clear. We have a mix of the types of videos that we try to mix up a lot. That includes live recordings of people talking or demonstrating, live screen captures of using our product, as well as more PowerPoint style presenting information. And combining those well with high quality is very effective.
Yeah. And Mark, before you go on, we talked about this yesterday, but what types of resources would a company need to have to create high quality video? People or tools or technology?
Yeah. So we've been very lucky in that Cybereason has a professional videographer who has helped us tremendously by doing the live recordings of people doing all the staging and as well as recording. And she's also helped us with just the video standards that we're using. And that's been critical. We're lucky to have that person full time. If we did not have that person as a company resource, I would be inclined to at least look for some consultation to get set up with what we had to do. Unless you're a sort of professional, very experienced video person, I think that help is critical. I think you don't want to wing it with or quickly done videos that might not get the reaction you're looking for.
And I just want to jump in. There's two good questions from the audience for you, Mark. So when you're talking about building this program, what success metrics did you use? And also, what are some new areas you are looking into for extending lab training online?
Sure. Okay. Great questions. I think success metrics is always a challenge. We look at how much of the courses the users are completing. It wouldn't be success if people came to the first lesson and then dropped out. That's something we always want to look at, and we can see the progress charts of all our users through different courses. And in some cases, I wouldn't say this happens across the board, but I've had sort of managers of a security team at some of our clients ask me for reports on, is their team completed the training? Are they good to go and start using our product? So that's one. We also use the survey tool right in edX to do basic NPS scores on every course. We ask the basic 1 through 10 evaluation. We also ask through the discussion functionality of the platform for people to give us any feedback anytime. And the second question, remind me, I'm sorry. Amanda, what was the second question?
Yeah, sure. Sorry, just bringing it back up. So what are some new areas you're looking into for extending lab training online? Okay,
so the first lab that we did with a complete virtual environment that our users actually went through was a basic attack simulation that we do, where they do the whole workflow from executing the attack to remediating it with our products. I think the big thing is in this field, in the security industry, that there's many attacks out in the world, and it's constantly evolving. So one of our challenges is, okay, there's a new attack that is going on. We heard about some ransomware attacks, for example, last year. How can we quickly build a lab and build the content around that based on that situation that our customers are experiencing right now? And I think it's a big goal for this year to become more agile in doing that and to be able to build those scenarios and training around it very quickly. And unfortunately for the world, I guess that's probably going to keep going, and there's going to be a lot of demand and new types of malicious activity going on. So that's the big thing with the hands-on labs, to provide our users, our security analysts, with a direct view into how that attack is carried out and how our product deals with it.
Great, thanks, Mark.
Sure.
So, Mark, I know there's been a lot of talk about providing really engaging learning experiences and learning by doing. Can you talk a little bit more about what are the characteristics of a really great, engaging learning experience where your learners get to do experiential type
Sure.
experiences?
Yeah. Well, one basic thing we try to do is mix up the content a lot. So a typical sort of template for the courses that we put together has very short videos followed by what I would call a quick check, or an assessment of one or two questions, and then followed by, now do this in the product, what you just saw in the video, now you do it yourself. And I think a key is to keep the users engaged is to keep going through different activities like that, and not sort of get stuck doing one thing over and over. I think we talked about this before, but I remember 2013 when I started at edX, when people talked about video instruction, it was common to say, 5 minutes average for a video, 7 minutes max. In today's world, that actually seems very long to me. I mean, we try to limit the videos to 3 to 4 minutes that focus on one very specific outcome, one thing we want to get conveyed through that video, whether it's a demonstration or presentation, and then check that knowledge and then move on to the next thing, and sort of create a story about it where each piece is leading to the next that might be slightly more in depth, but not try to say cover a whole area of our product or subject in one long video. I think it's an expectation of how people work today that you need to keep moving.
And do you find by keeping those videos really short and focused on one topic, it also allows your learners to kind of jump in and participate in more micro learning experiences, as opposed to I got to watch this entire 10-minute video, and I might only be interested in this one thing in this video, but by slicing it up, it allows you to deep link just to like a lesson in your full length course that solves a particular need that they have.
Absolutely. And we want them to get a very specific lesson out of it. And we look at, through our video service, we look at how long people are watching the videos, and you can see ones that are slightly longer that there is a drop off. So we want to avoid that. The other thing I didn't mention, which I would say is an advantage of the platform when we were talking about problems and a way to engage people, is that OpenEdX in the problem types has a feedback and hinting mechanism where, whether the user enters a correct or incorrect answer, you can provide feedback based on that answer. You can provide hints. And personally, I think a lot of the learning that people take away from the training comes from that, where you submit an answer and there's, in some cases, some fairly detailed responses to that. And I think that provides some engagement and interactivity where our users almost feel like they're having a conversation or getting that immediate feedback on what they've done, as opposed to just hitting submit and not knowing what happens and going on to the getting the red X but not knowing why. Right. And that's something I love about the platform, is it makes, as a course author or content creator, it makes designing that and implementing that kind of feedback in problems very easy.
Great. All right, well, I think we're going to move on to the Q&A section.
Yep.
So Amanda, over to you again.
Thanks, Nate. So yeah, we received a bunch of questions throughout the webinar. Thanks everyone for those. And we are going to do our best to get to them all. If we do run out of time, we're going to send a follow-up response after the webinar. So don't worry. So let's jump into the first question. Mark, this is one for you. So do you use any kind of one-to-one mentoring together with the course on Open edX?
One-on-one mentoring for our customers, clients, not through the courses on Open edX, at least not right now. Our customer success team often does that directly with their clients. That would be a very good goal to have as part of the platform. We're just not there yet.
Okay. And then another one for you, Mark. What learning pedagogies are you considering at this time?
I'm probably not the best person to ask about the formal sort of learning theories. I wouldn't say that's my specialty. I'm sort of taking a mulligan on this, but I think we try to approach it as I was describing, with really identifying what the outcomes are that we want from a particular lesson. Like, we want to make sure our users know how to, say, remediate a specific type of attack, say to remediate ransomware or isolate a machine that is spreading a virus. We want to make sure learners need to do that. So we start with that outcome and work backwards from that. Like, what do we want to assess when the user's done with this lesson? What do we want to make sure that they need to know? And then that will influence what we need to provide in the video. That would influence the script for the exercise that we're providing. And then we would build around that. But I think that the key is just starting with the outcome that you want from every lesson. Mm-hmm. And that, you know, if we were to skip that part, I think it would go off course.
Awesome. Really important points raised there. Thank you so much. So another question came through, and I'm going to open this to the both of you. Maybe Nate, you can take a stab at it first, but what's the advantage of using open source software like Open edX? Not very familiar with the concept of open source.
Yeah, well, Mark alluded to this earlier, but unlike proprietary software, there's no licensing fee. So it's open, it's in the public domain, which means that there's really no vendor lock-in. You can take the site, all the data, and you can move to another vendor if you're not happy with the one you're with. So that's a key advantage. Another one is, because it's open source, it means that there's a worldwide community of contributors. It's not just a single company working on it, but people from all different types of organizations, big and small, can make contributions and improve the platform. And you, as a user, consumer of the product, can benefit from those. That's the first advantage. The second one is if there's something that the platform doesn't do that you want it to do, you can extend it, or you can hire someone to help you extend it. Or if there's a bug in the platform and it's really annoying you, you can either fix it yourself or you can hire someone to fix it. You don't have to wait around for a company to fix it. So those are some of the key advantages. And also, we talked about this earlier, it's very flexible. Open edX has a whole range of different APIs that allow you to get data into Open edX, get data out. It has the XBlock plugin architecture, which allows you to extend the functionality of the platform. It also supports LTI, so you can plug in, dozens of different third-party add-ons to also extend the platform. So I think those are some of the key things. And then lastly, the community is a really big part of any open source project. And I mentioned this earlier, but there's an OpenX annual conference coming up in May in Montreal, where if you're interested in learning more about Open edX, it's a great conference. You get to meet a lot of the people on the edX team. AppSembler will be there, a lot of other practitioners and people. So I encourage you to sign up. It's conf.openedx.org is where you can sign up and register for the conference.
Awesome. Thanks. And thanks for sharing that plug for Open edX. It's going to be a great show. Mark, anything to add about advantages for, or just talking about open source foundationally, what that means, what it looks like?
Nate hit on all the reasons that I feel like it's beneficial to us and a good choice. I think I was thinking when I'm actually working on the course, building a course, and I'm in Studio and I want to add a component, you basically click a button and you get a list of, it's dozens at this point, of types of components to add to the course. And I'm thinking to myself, well, those have come from different places in the world. People have developed specific types of components and contributed them to the platform because it's open source. And that, I think, is a real advantage, because there's a lot of flexibility, a lot of different types of courseware that we can do. And as Nate said, if there's something totally unique we want to do, we can build it ourselves and contribute it back and have other people collaborate on that. I think it really speeds up innovation overall.
Great. Thank you so much. And so I'm just going to throw out one more question. We're running short on time. So you both alluded to this learn by doing and simulation. Can you talk a little bit more about what that actually looks like for the learner?
Sure.
So Mark, maybe you want to kick this one off.
Sure. Well, without giving away too much proprietary stuff. So right now, like, we have our first course that is really leveraging the lab system that we have. A user comes into the course, there's a very short high-level introduction video about what the user will do in this course, and it basically says the user is going to have a virtual environment with different machines, different virtual computers in the course, and then it's going to guide the user into that virtual environment that you open in a second window where you see icons for different machines, and one of those machines is the user actually uses as an attack machine, where it's already set up. You go in, you follow. We provide videos that guide everybody through this, but you follow a script to run an attack on the other machines in the environment. And you can open the desktops for those other machines. You can see the results of the attack. For example, it might encrypt your files, your Microsoft Word files. It might do other things. And then you open our product in a browser and you can see data that identifies that as an attack. And then we guide the user through, what do you do next? You can use our product to investigate further details, to isolate that machine on the network, to remediate or fix the problem and get rid of the malicious software that was run. So what we envision is you could have two windows open where there's a video of me actually doing the exercise in the environment, and then we're asking the user to follow along, going through all the steps, which is really a complete round trip through the whole attack life cycle that we refer to. So I think that having the users do it as we're describing it really reinforces the lessons and allows users to sort of get out of the theory of it and use our product as it was designed to be used.
That's great. Thanks.
Sure.
Thanks, Mark, for sharing that. I'll just add to that and say that what we're finding a lot of our customers doing with their courses is embedding a lab environment right within the course. And what this allows our learners to do is, as Mark said, really get hands-on experience using the product. We have people using labs for not just product training, but also programming, developer training. We have a number of customers using it for data science, which is a really hot field right now. And so what our labs product lets you do is essentially embed a lab right within the courseware. When the student clicks on the button saying they want the lab environment, we provision what's called a Docker container. It's like a lightweight virtual machine. Spins up in about 10 seconds. And that is a personalized sandbox for that learner. So each learner gets their own sandbox. It's not in a shared environment where you have pollution of data across different students. Each student gets a clean, pristine environment where they can start doing those exercises. And the advantage for the course author and the instructor is that you can be certain that every student has a consistent, same environment, right? So what happens in a lot of in-person trainings is, where people bring their own laptop, is that you can spend half of the training session just trying to get the software installed on each person's laptop, because some people are on Mac, some are on Windows, some are on Linux. And the advantage of our cloud-based virtual lab software is every student gets a consistent environment in the cloud that's available for them to do that exercise. And then when they're done with it, it just spins down. Yep. And because it's in the cloud, you can basically, audit it. The instructor can go in and look at what the student's doing and troubleshoot and debug it. So that's what, our customers really love this capability, because it gives them these lab environments literally with one click for their students, and gives them this learning by doing experience.
Exactly. Yeah.
Awesome. Great. Well, we're pretty much out of time for today. But before we say goodbye, if you are interested in learning more about Assembler, I encourage you to send us a note or visit us, view the links and visit us to see a live demo or learn more. So I just want to take some time. Thank you everyone who joined us today. We had a lot of fun, and a special thanks to Nate and Mark for both taking the time to speak with us. So in terms of next steps, just keep a lookout on your inbox. We're going to be sending the webinar likely tomorrow, and we'll see you on the next webinar. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks
everyone joining. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye.